Hi, this is Drew Tignanelli. This is our June update, Financial Pulse. And Tom, so the markets are pretty much doing the same thing. You know?
Yeah, it's been a steady climb. Every day we hear about new highs, but it really hasn't gone up a lot. It's just been a very slow climb here.
Yeah, but nothing alarming. I watched the railroad reports. They're doing really well. I'm watching the financials, the loans, bank loans. They're skyrocketing still. Just amazing how fast loans are growing in the United States right now.
It is. One of the concerns coming up lately has been oil. We've seen West Texas Intermediate hitting new highs, 8-month highs there. Obviously, there's been concerns recently with Iraq and some of the international stuff. We've been talking about Ukraine earlier in the year. And we've got the World Cup starting today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you didn't know that.
That's football.
Yeah, football.
That's what my friend in England always calls it. Football. He said, you Americans, it's not soccer, it's football.
Yeah, well, and then the question is what's going to happen in Brazil. There are going to be attacks in Brazil. That's still an overhang on our markets. And with what's going on in Iraq, we've seen a little bit of pressure on oil. And people have been saying, is inflation starting to creep up a little bit here in the U.S.?
Well, the interest rates have been moving up. There's nothing to be alarmed about as far as the economy is going, but we are still, I read a statistic the other day that if the market continues up for 2 more months, we will break the second longest ever running bull market in the history of our country. And the only other one that was longer was 7 years. This one's now well into 5 years. The only other one was 7 years, which ended in the crash of '29, which began the Great Depression.
Oh. So you're not saying anything about that.
I'm not saying anything about it. I'm just saying that, now's the time to continue to try to get what you can, but not think that you can just put it all in and say, I'm a long-term investor. I don't think that's necessarily the wisest thing to do either. You need to be cautious.
Yeah, well, it's not as cheap as it used to be.
The market is not as cheap as it used to be. It's not ridiculously overvalued either.
Right. You can get a little bit swayed the other way with the market up 180, almost 200% from the bottom, back in March of '09. But, it's still just a little bit higher than we were at the prior peaks of the other periods of time. So we're doing okay. And in the bond market you mentioned, rates going higher. We saw the 10-year get down to 240 this year, back up to around 260. And then we were observing that, the Italian and the Spanish bonds actually went through the U.S. 10-year.
I don't even want to begin to try to think about that. It makes my mind hurt. My brain hurts when I think about something like that. That people would lend money to Spain cheaper than they'd lend it to the United States. But anyway, we've got other topics we've got to do. And one of them is we want to do our financial planning topic. But before we do that, I want to talk about something you and I talked about last night. And that is that there are people out there that are trying to invoke a lot of fear in individuals, saying the dollar's going to collapse, America's coming to the end, this is the, and they spend an hour and 20 minutes trying to explain why you should be afraid, and 5 or 10 minutes on some trivial little topic that they're making out to be their incredible knowledge and information they have.
Right.
Those type of people are scary.
Yeah.
It's almost, it's legal. It's legal what they do.
Right.
But it's manipulation at its finest, I guess is the best way I can put it.
Freedom of speech, I guess they get away with some of these things, but
it's exactly what they actually
whatever.
Had a government agency come after them, and they got away because they said, hey, it's freedom of speech. There's not doing anything illegal, but it's clearly not something that I would, anybody who invokes fear in you to get you to do something, you have to be concerned about.
Well, in order to get attention, you have to be extreme. That's a lot of what happens with these guys. So they take a really extreme position. They try and get your emotions going, and then once they get you emotional, then they can kind of lure you into what they're trying to get. And in some of these cases, it's selling a newsletter or something like that.
Yeah, or gold or whatever the case may be. But let's go on to our next topic. Our next topic is the financial topic, and it's called the digital estate planning. So, everybody has an email account. Everybody has usernames and passwords to buy online. Everybody's got music and books and songs, and I guess music and songs could be somewhat similar.
Right.
And everyone's got
photos
and all these kind of things, and you're putting them up in the clouds, and you're doing all, and you know what happens when you become disabled or you die? Are they yours? Are they able to be passed on to your children? Are they do you like that Italian motion?
And it depends. Doesn't it depend?
It does depend. It depends on who you're buying the music from or the books from. It depends on where you're putting the photos, you know. Actually, people didn't realize, but when they put photos on Facebook, they belong to Facebook.
Yeah, well, what people don't realize is when they click the little I agree button, when they sign into these different things, they're signing an agreement, and a digital agreement.
People didn't read those agreements.
And they don't know what's in there, what it says about when they get disabled, when they're deceased, what's going to happen to that data, some of which they've paid for.
Right.
Right? You know, like with books or with songs and the like. You know, some people have estates of $50,000, $60,000, $100,000, maybe more, digitally out there.
And they don't know what's going to happen with it. And I think they ought to start becoming familiar. The reason this all came about was this. In 2003, there was an Iraqi soldier who died in combat. And when he died, his parents went to Yahoo, who had his email account, and they said, we'd like his email records because we want to understand what our son was thinking about before he passed. Now, can you imagine hearing this and getting the response that Yahoo gave them, which is, sorry, not giving it to you.
Right.
And then to go to the extent that when they prosecuted him and brought action against him in the courts, they fought it tooth and nail for about 6 years. And finally, the court settled, and Yahoo agreed to print out his emails and give him a copy of the printed version. Right. Google actually has a successor account. You can actually set up a successor account with Google, and you know there's a way to do it in the settings. We don't have time to go into all the specifics of how to do it, but if you just go into your settings, you can find that there's a successor, and if you're not active on that account, they will notify the successor, and the successor can take over the account and deal with it. But you need to know these things, and you need to start planning, and our company needs to start helping our clients to start planning their digital estate, and hopefully within the next few months or within the year, you're going to have a uniform digital estate law that will start getting passed in different states, and it'll dictate what can and cannot be done with these digital estates. Yeah, that'll make it very good.
State level, it's going to be about the different providers and how they handle it. And you need to look at your inventories. We look at inventory, like we talked about videotaping your household contents. You've got to start doing inventory of all of your digital accounts.
Yeah, but you have to be careful that you also keep those secure.
Right.
You know, and I see a lot of your older clients have all their papers that all this information is on, and you know they need to keep that extremely secure.
Right. Yeah, and you may have a different person that's the executor of your digital estate versus your regular estate.
That's very true.
Because I have to use my kids to help out with that because the people that are the executor of my estate, they not understand the technology. That's a whole other issue.
Anyway, so we've got
more to come. Right?
We've got more to come, and we're going to be working more with our clients about this. Anyway, that's the end of this month's Financial Pulse. This is Drew Tignanelli saying God bless.